All right. Welcome to the Pros Podcast, where we talk with different pros from different industries who work on your home. From remodeling to upgrades, from hiring and vetting contractors to choosing special features, from do's and don'ts, cost and budgeting, from protecting your investment to adding long-lasting value to your home. We're going to unpack the tips and tricks from the masters of their trade so you will have the knowledge to grow your biggest investment and turn your house into your dream home. Brilliant. That's what we say. So that's the Pros Podcast intro. Now to special guest, GreenWorks finest, the one and only Harmony Brown. GreenWorks is the largest inspection company in the state of Texas, focusing on property inspections, structural engineering, environmental testing, and pest control for both residential and commercial properties. Besides winning several awards,
Yes.
GreenWorks has
Harmony.
grown
GreenWorks.
their team to over 100 employees, including inspectors, structural engineers, account executives, and administrative staff.
Wow.
GreenWorks performs over 1,500 inspections each month and have been successfully serving their clients for over 13 years. Introducing the owner, CEO, Harmony Brown.
Yes, good to have you on, Miss Harmony Brown.
Oh, so glad to be here.
And you're the founder, more importantly, I guess. That's kind of the key to the whole thing, right?
That's right.
Well, take it away. Can you give us a little bit of background and let us know what I kind of gave a little bit on what GreenWorks does, but can you take a deeper dive?
Yeah, of course.
Yes, on yourself, maybe, where Harmony Brown got its start to GreenWorks?
Yeah, no, I can definitely start with me. I was a young person in college, not looking to start a business when GreenWorks began. I was doing door-to-door sales, selling green home products. I was online selling books through Amazon and eBay. Like I would go to garage sales and get these used and refurbished books, and I would sell them for pennies. I had just recently moved to Texas. I'm originally from Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, and yes, it's as small as it sounds. I had come here with my mom when she was moved here for American Airlines, and I was literally in the 5th year of college, struggling to decide what I wanted to do as a major. Pretty normal to be at that age and not know what direction you want to go in. And it was apparent to me that even though I was doing all these little knick-knack jobs, I wanted to get into something more formal and something that I could really grow in. I had management experience because I had taken a job when I was a teenager at a family fun center. And I had grown up through that job very quickly. I had spent 6 years there. And so that was one of my part-time jobs. So notice you're seeing like a lot of jobs that I'm trying to do. But being in school, I couldn't do that full-time. So I'd like go there on the weekends too. But this family fun center was made up of like go-karts and mini golf and, food. And I'm managing all these teenagers. And I had actually done really well at it. So I'd kind of realized that I was able to manage teenagers on this large campus and not burn the place down and make money while trying to be in school myself, but I still had no clue what I wanted to do with my life. And that kind of crept in this self-doubt of, why am I going to school? I'm spending all this money. I'm $80,000 in debt, which is a huge sum of money, with no clue on what kind of career I'm going to do to pay this back, right? And we're in 2009, and essentially going, okay, I got to figure this out. Well, at this point, I've gotten really good at using Google, and I had figured out, like, all right, I could just start searching for things, and you can. It's kind of amazing. How do you find a passion? How do I find something I love? How do I, stop spending more than I make?
Some of those things that fill in the autofill, you'll say, and sometimes it's like, why is my poop green? I think that is so I'm not saying that's how it went or anything, but it autofilled on some stuff, and you've Googled it, and then
yeah, I totally did. So I Googled it, and the one I landed on was like, how do you find a passion? Well, it leads me to an ebook The ebook breaks down all of these steps to really help you drill down on something that you may actually like to do. And, so first questions are like, well, what do you like to do in your free time, period? And I was like, well, watch TV, duh. And then the ebook's
Did you put
like,
that?
I literally did. And the ebook's like, even if you like to watch TV, what do you like to watch on TV? And it's like, and it helps you kind of see, like, what are the shows that you'll pick when you got nothing else that you're trying to watch. Well, for me, my default was like HGTV. I don't know why. Just always drew to it. And then it said, well, what do you like about HGTV show? And I'm like, oh, well, it's people buying homes, and they're on this home search. And it had more questions to it, but ultimately it says, based on these things, it seems like you may enjoy a career in real estate. Why don't you take this next step, which is call the professionals who work in real estate and ask them what their day-to-day is like? And I thought, that is so brilliant. Why don't more young people actually just call people? Just call the doctors. I mean, you want to be one. See if you like being, you may like what vets do all day, every day, or you may not. So in this case, I go, all right, well, there's real estate school. Here's these 4 careers. There's appraiser, there's mortgage, there's realtor, there's inspection. And, you call the realtor and like, hey, my name's Harmony. I'm calling you because I'm reading a book and it said that I should call you and ask you what your day's like. Can you tell me what your day's like? Just a super...
What was the response to that?
People were so kind.
What book did you read about me in?
Yeah, they're so kind. They're like, oh, you're just young. You're trying to find what you want. Sure, I'll tell you. But, you'd be surprised. You approach people with a good attitude, and they would just say, yeah, well, here's what it's kind of like. I got to do lead generation activities. I've got to do networking events. I'm putting my information out everywhere. I'm trying to create content, whatever it is that they're doing to try to generate leads. And I'm like, ooh, man, that sounds really tough. Like, I don't know if I can do that. And then what's it like to try to get commissions? And what's it like taking people out to, try to shop for homes? And it just didn't fit right and didn't hit well. Plus, I needed to make more money because at this point, I'm completely broke. And I literally have very little to live on. My mom's fed up with me. Dad's fed up with me. They're threatening to kick me out of the house and then end up kick me out of the house. So, I'm facing way more in my personal life than I think that world could handle. So I'm like, nah, I can't be a realtor. Next, I go to mortgage, and the mortgage people are telling me what their day like is too. And I'm like, I don't know. That doesn't sound great because I don't like math. I don't really like paperwork. I'm not organized, so that was a no. Appraisal, I thought appraisal would be great. I even signed up for an appraisal class, went to school. But what ended up stopping me from appraisal was you actually have to have a 4-year degree to ever become an appraiser.
Huh.
Because I have spent 5 years in school and hadn't actually picked a major and stayed in any particular course, I didn't have that degree.
Whoops.
Never did it. So that for me, I was like, nah, this isn't gonna work long term. Got to inspections, and I call the inspectors and say, hey, what's your day like? And they're like, well, yeah, let me tell you. I get up in the morning, I go to realtor offices. I'm in their face. I'm talking to them. I'm presenting. I do lunch and learns. I, take them candy, whatever. I'm just trying to get in front of them to see if they'll give me work. And then if I'm lucky, I'll do my inspections in the afternoon. And I was like, that's interesting. Like, I'm having that light bulb moment of like, that sounds different, like not in a good way. And I just simply asked, I go, do you like that? Like, do you like having to go out and get work and then do the work? And they're like, no, we hate it, And I literally called 4 different inspectors, and each of them had the exact same thing to say. And through my reading and doing this personal development, they said, you find a need. And I go, these guys have a need. It would still let me work in real estate. I'd still get to go to houses, and I could do this part that they don't like. This is it. I found what I'm going to do.
Wow.
And that was the start.
Huh. I never dawned on me that they wouldn't like, that makes a lot of sense, chasing down, eat what you kill, and then having to do the work too. So
Exactly.
You got to be focused on the work.
Yeah, when you're a technical person and you really do want to just do that, it was very difficult to try to put on sales hat, marketing hat, lead gen, follow up. Like those things have really nothing to do with your expertise in foundation and roof and plumbing, like all of that together. And although there are those who succeed at it, the majority don't. Our industry is really sold on going out and starting a business for yourself, and that sounds very glamorous. However, that's not for everyone.
Right.
It's just not, And I, even though the intention wasn't, I'm going to go make a huge business out of this, because that really wasn't the beginning. I was just trying to find something that I thought I could actually enjoy.
Yeah.
And, obviously create a need.
Wake up and look forward to.
Exactly.
So if I'm summarizing what you've done, you've sort of created the infrastructure for the people behind doing the inspections. You've gone out and taken all the admin side out of it for them and allowed them just to focus on what they're good at. So you're kind of like the Uber. You kind of create a system for all these different operators to work underneath. Is that?
Yeah.
And then obviously, I'm sure that you've worked hard to instill your culture, your business culture, in the Harmony Brown way on treating people that you probably learned from all your time at the Fun Play, the what?
Yeah, it was called Celebrate. Yeah, it was called Celebration Station. You're exactly right.
But Celebration Station. So you've aggregated your management style, but you've done it in a way where you're managing, professional level people that have a 4-year degree or acumen in the inspection world. And wow, that's awesome.
Exactly. Yep.
That's awesome.
You got it.
So what was the next step then? GreenWorks?
Yeah, so the next step was I had a really tough start, even though this is a great idea. I had none of the skills to do this yet. So I go 16 months without a single client. And I'm actually working at this. Now, yes, I'm still selling books, I go to Plano and, go to the book sale, buy them, and then resell, clean them up, sell them, ship them, and I could make, a few bucks doing that. But it wasn't sustaining me. And so I'm really out trying to get the work. But this is 2010 at this point. You all know Mark's in a bad place. No one knows me from Adam. And I don't know how to talk to people. I don't know how to interact. I don't, I'm lost. And because I'm not the inspector, I can't really talk about the service yet. So I learned real quick that it's important to form expertise in what I wanted to do. And as I was going through all that time, I was really developing what is it that clients really want. And how am I going to give them something that will help them gain what they need out of this, because this is such a big purchase. And it comes with a lot of pressure. And I knew that they wanted availability, and I knew that they wanted us to be available and have that knowledge and expertise to make that informed decision. So it took off. After I got my first client, I luckily built a website, got a call, they used me. Then I go 4 more months, get a second client. That second client ended up being a mentor of mine. She was an investor who helped me kind of refine my skill, because I was out there and I would literally, I'd call the inspector. I say, hey, can you come out and do the inspection? I give him all the fee. I still didn't make anything. And it was really cheap prices. I was doing them for dirt cheap. But I said, if I can just get going, I'll get something later. So she said, Harmony, you need to, I charged her $150 for the inspection. And she says, you need to charge $199 minimum. She's like, charge $200, but make it a 9. People like to hear 1.9 something. And she goes, you keep $49. You can give the inspector the other $50. And I'll introduce you to all these other people that I network with. And you really should consider advertising. And it's an investor group, and I did it. I made the choice. She gave me 3 more inspections. I took the money she gave me, I put it into investing in this group, and I kind of blew up because I was there, ready, eager, excited,
confident a little, having closed some deals.
Yes.
Gotten some first clients.
Yes. And they were all willing to help. It's like, I just was that kid that I wasn't willing to give up. I was always there. I was always pleasant. You never felt this, I deserve. And I kind of had, at first, before I had really started on the personal development journey, I really had an attitude of I should be given something for nothing, right? And that somehow I was entitled just because I wanted to be lazy. But that became a big difference when I took that really servant hood to heart and really accepted the truth that like hard work is meant for those who have. Like if I want to have, I must work hard and I must be of value and really create something that's gonna make people appreciate it enough to share it with others. I never stopped from that. I really threw myself into it and became the person where like we go to inspection and my gimmick was I'll wash your car while we're at the inspection. Like the inspector will be inside, and I told him, I'm like, I'm a really good car detailer. I promise you, like, you're going to pay me $199, but auto detailing's $100. So you're basically getting it for $100. No one made me do it. I go, I'll go pick up your dry cleaning while you're here, and they're like, what is this kid saying? But like, I know I'm not, I wasn't really a kid. I was like 22 years old, but just the hunger and the drive and just the willingness to do anything and everything. I was like, are we doing, when you move into the house, are we going to do flower beds, when you get here? Because you guys know you can call me, right? I make a good landscaper. Like just anything I could say to put a smile on their face and let them know that I was going to be there no matter what.
Yeah. Well, and you had a crowd there with those home investors. When you have people that are entrepreneurs, if you hustle and you show the desire to hustle, they are all, entrepreneurs, now that you're one, you recognize if some young kid called you and said, I'll wash your windows, I'm trying to get, and there's a lot of people who are hustling in their brain and not really hustling when it comes to showing up and actually doing the work. But as an entrepreneur, if I had somebody that came up to me and said, I just want a job. I got my first job. I went and sat on the guy's front porch at the builder I wanted to work for, and I told him, I'm going to keep coming to work every morning. Your job is to hire me to come to this job I'm already coming to. And he's like, okay. And so I just went and sat on his porch and said, hey, I'm going to build houses for somebody. I hope it's you. And so and he's like, I'm on about the fourth day. He's like, all right, you're hired. I don't know how else to shake you. I'm just going to have to hire you.
Yeah, you're a liability standing out here.
So I went to work for the guy. Various different things. I've tried different techniques. I had a guy when I was selling Datacom, and I was trying to get into Zales Diamond Corporation. A guy named Barry Zale ran it. And I couldn't get a hold of him on the phone, and I was selling Cisco gear, and I knew his company they had multiple locations. We had this super cool phone system that could streamline some things. And so I just went to him, and I kept going, and I would call him every single day, and I'd be like, I got a dog over the weekend. It's this new lab out of this thing. And I was just telling. And so finally, I probably left the guy like 20 messages over the course of about 2 months. And he finally answered the phone. He's like, Jason Hulcy, hello. How's that new dog? And he's like, I've never had anyone approach me like this. And he's like, if nothing else, you're persistent and determined. And I like people like that. And so go ahead, tell me what you got. I'm giving you, here, come on down to my office. You got an hour.
Open floor.
And we sold him a bunch of stuff. And that's how our relationship began. So just, that saying is luck favors the prepared. It's amazing. Is it really luck or is it really being prepared? And like you were, you're out there and you're putting in the work and going to the stuff, and you don't even know what the results are. But the thing that you and I both did is we went, right? You just went. No one's going to hire you sitting on your couch playing video games, right?
That's right.
And if you go and put yourself out there, someone's going to like something you have to say, and the gift of gab, right? Just when you're telling them. Like they're seeing your personality come out when you're saying you're washing their car. They know you're not going to wash the car. You're just making a funny thing. And so.
Yeah, but I was prepared to wash the car. I really had the soap, the sponge, the bucket. I'd put it right out the front porch. Literally. I happily would have done it. You can't say, I love what you're saying, because that willingness to not always be paid what you're worth. I know there's a big trend out there where people are like, yeah, you got to get what you're worth all the time. Until you have real skill, until you have real value, you can't back up without like other people coming behind and saying, yeah, this is a credible business, is a credible service. you haven't earned the right
Right.
to say that you deserve X yet. You know?
Absolutely not.
Yeah, and that doing that extra work creates a lot of loyalty that would follow you to the grave, and just wherever you go in your business, they are going to follow.
A lot of people today go out to these expensive colleges and get these degrees, and they get a degree in sociology or psychology, and they're not prepared to do anything. They don't have a degree and then they think, I've got this degree from Columbia or whatever the hotshot institution is, and they're not prepared to do anything. They don't have, and so someone that has gone out and washed windows has more human interaction skills than they do, and I just see it all the time. This entitlement society is so, and it's just poison to these kids. And I feel for them. I feel for the fact that you've gone to an institution, and it seems like a lot of the educators are all about just you being heard, and get out there, and you're young, and buck the system, and be a rebel, and get what you're worth, and don't take no pushback or whatever else. But as I found, and I'm sure you have too, like being agreeable and nice and kind and gentle are attributes that will last you, and they endear people. And like the old adage, like, how would you want your mom's house to be inspected? Is that what you would want your mom to be treated like? And until these kiddos get this idea that and treating people like you would want your mom to be treated is a universally accepted way to do business. And I'm sad that there's a lot of these people that are being taught that being loud, being obnoxious, saying, hiding behind your keyboard, taking a bunch of anonymous shots at whoever, no matter what the subject matter is, just hiding behind your screen is bad. And and for you and I don't have a college degree either. I came up short. I'm a few classes shy, and so but you and I have gotten out there and mixed it. I went to a lot of college. I went to 4.5 years of college and never managed to pull a degree out of there. But it's reflective of the fact, of the fact that you and I have succeeded based on determination.
That's right.
And no was not going to be the end of my story. I was going to just keep, and if it was a brick wall that I needed to be broken down and I didn't have a hammer, I was just going to use my head. And so that's, I did never break any brick walls down with my head. That's why I have such a good looking head still.
Check out the big brain on Brad.
But I think that's pivotal, and I would love to have an opportunity to mentor some young people today and just direct them in the fact that making noise and twittering is not the way to. There's no one pays you to do that. That's right. All right. Well, going on after that, and the story of your personal success is pretty awesome, and I people that have come from, wealthy families and all that, when they succeed, it's great. But some people, someone like you that's getting kicked out of their house and down to the last nickel is that's an even more fun story. And so,
that's right.
And so let's dig into this home inspection business. So you have inspectors all over the state of Texas currently.
That's correct.
Okay, and y'all do primarily residential. Is that your core business?
It is our core, yes. We're 80% residential, 20% commercial.
Okay, and so just to land the plane for everyone listening, a home inspection occurs after I would say the majority of your business is on a transaction of a property.
Absolutely.
Property's changing hands, new seller, or a seller is doing a deal with a buyer. The buyer enlists your services primarily. And probably through the most of the time the referral of a realtor, correct?
That's correct.
And so your business is driven probably primarily by realtors and then bringing clients to you.
Yes, a lot of our business is that. We do also do a lot of direct to consumer marketing as well. We wanted to be able to not have to rely so heavily on the agent at all times, because it can be incredibly competitive to always be top of mind for them, especially agents. They do move brokerages a lot. So you could be working at one brokerage, you're really popular there. If they go somewhere else and they have another inspection team that they're used to working with, you may lose them in some of that shuffle. or just every now and then a deal does not work out on the first home for a client and they need someone to take it out on. Unfortunately, that could be the inspector. It happens because the clients weren't really informed of what they were purchasing until they got that inspection report. It's not very often that it happens, but it does happen. And so we wanted to also go direct to consumer as well. We thought it was a good way to be able to give back to our agents too, because if we are pulling in consumers and then we have other ways to advertise our agents to their ongoing client through a platform that we call HomeBinder. It's not that there were times where the client came into us, they didn't have a realtor, and then they have an option to see agents in front of them later down the line. Now, most clients do have agents, but it's kind of that place now where there's so many people coming in from California that they already have the relocation companies helping put them in homes and like setting them up with new construction, that agents aren't a part of that deal, and we wanted a piece of that pie. So to get to them, we did have to go direct to consumer. So, you can find us out there a little as well.
Okay, so what's more important, being good at home inspections or being available to do the home inspection? Timing's got to be pretty critical in your business.
It is very critical, no doubt. But if you're not good, you won't be able to stay in business. Like, you just can't. There are, unfortunately, just a rising demand of people knowing how to understand the law, and there's a need for good quality inspectors. And if there's not training and the inspector is not properly qualified, even if they have certain qualifications and licenses, if they're just out there trying to do it, they're probably going to end up in trouble, to be honest, and be out of the business. And that happens, unfortunately, more often than it should. But it's lack of preparedness. It's lack of the inspector really taking the time when they're brand new to go out and really learn everything that they need to learn. So luckily for us at GreenWorks, we were obsessed with quality of service. We were obsessed with going way above standards. We were obsessed with, trying to find everything that we could find in homes that would make sure that when someone moves in, they're going to be comfortable, they're going to be happy with their purchase. And if things did need to be negotiated, because there's always something, no house is perfect. No house is perfect. If there's things that need to be found and dealt with, at least they go in knowing, okay, I'm either going to deal with this later down the line, which is totally fine, or I choose not to deal with it at all, but at least it's their choice not to deal with it at all. So got to have the quality service.
And so you're working really hard to eliminate surprises.
That's right.
When they at least you can buy this house or you cannot buy this house. You can negotiate these items or not negotiate these items, but at least you know about them. And your company's gone in, and most inspectors do that. The level of which they go to, and the accuracy and the quality of the documentation probably sets you guys apart. Is huge? Am I thinking about that right?
You are absolutely thinking about that right. Yeah, we break it down into 3 main stages. So most of the time, people are thinking about, the inspection itself, it has to be really good, and it does, but no one from the outside really knows what the inspector is seeing. You may see them walking around with a flashlight, but you don't know what's in their head. So that part's, it's vague gray, and we really don't know. But the part where we have insight is the report, right? So, okay, you did inspection, you have to document what you found. Your ability to document what you find, it's huge. It tells me that you were able to go in and at least see these things, and I can read about it in this report and hopefully understand it. But then there's this third element to a great inspection that we have drilled down on tremendously. That's where I come in, as even though I'm not an inspector, it's that walkthrough. It's the time that we spend when we're telling you what we found. If we can communicate and educate and really take the time to be diligent in the process to where you feel confident and comfortable, knowing what you're getting, knowing what's going really well in this home, what's okay and what's not going so well, it allows a more confident experience for the person that's buying that house, especially now that homes we know are just generally more expensive than ever before because of interest rates. So there's not a lot of just free money standing around for homes anymore. Like, people's budgets have tightened no matter what around housing, because of the expense of homes. So making an educated decision it's always been critical, but now it's even more critical because getting upside down can happen if unexpected expenses are unforeseen. And now it's like, well, hold on. You never told me that this water heater was going to go out and it's upstairs in the attic and it busts. And, there's all these issues that come later. And yes, I have insurance, but being prepared is a huge factor. And so we focus highly on that aspect of the business, and it sets us apart in more ways than not. And that's why we've been able to grow and scale so well.
Do you have a particular opinion on how many opinions your inspectors are giving to the clients? To give an example of my question, you're doing the walkthrough with your homeowner at the end. Do you want, or do you try to prevent your inspectors from explaining the nuances to a particular, so a water heater in the attic, that's bad for a variety of reasons. Do you explain to them on how to minimize or maximize, or really draw a big circle around an item that's a big problem? Because I think I'm fairly educated on the stuff on house stuff, but if I was not, I would really want an inspector that could kind of weed through all the there's a bunch of stuff, a GFI plug or not, whatever else, but like, okay, this water ponding here that's a problem. Right. Do you give your inspectors some license to be able to really kind of interpret the report? And I guess that's probably the most critical part, is like all this stuff on paper. What of here is a big deal? And
Absolutely. Yes. We teach them and train them like we use, and here's the truth of the matter. The report protects the inspector no matter what. So they're going to document everything, and they're going to talk about all the minimal, small things, the maintenance items. It's all in the report. So that way you can't come back later and say, hey, you never told me, right? That there was missing caulking around the windows. Well, my sprinkler's been hitting this window, and now mold's growing inside the bedroom after 8 years. Yeah, that's probably going to happen if there's, wall penetration there, for instance. It was a small deal that time, but after time, wear and tear, life happens. It changes. However, so we may not discuss that as thoroughly, but we have the report to say that we told you. When it comes to the big items, everything that we teach is speak to each and every client like they're your best friend or it's your mom. Whatever works, whatever more personal for you. Like if this is your parents buying this home, what are you going to tell them about the house? What are you going to want to make sure they absolutely know?
It's funny that y'all use the same example.
It's true though. It's true though, because if you treat people transactionally, or you treat them like this is someone I'm never going to see again, it's a whole different experience for a buyer, and they're not going to get what they really need out of that inspection versus someone who's going to say, listen, let me tell you the truth. Like, there's things that you need to get to, and yes, make a weekend project out of it, or get a handyman in here and get some of this done. But you've got to pay attention to these 2 water heaters that you have up here. I already started seeing a small leak. I'm seeing some rusting on the pipes. But if you don't want to replace these now, you don't have to, because it's true. Even though this thing's 12 years old, water heaters last, say, 10 to 15 years, because they do. Get a water sensor up here. They're not expensive. You get one on Amazon. You hook it up to your phone. If it starts leaking too much, it'll hit your phone. You'll know to go up there and check it, right? That's how we talk to you. So that way you have the decisions. Or, hey, you want to replace it? Are you looking for a good plumber in the area? Like, what do you need and how can we help you? And if we're helping the clients and we're helping their agents, because the realtors, we don't want them having to get bogged down with all that. They don't know all the best pros, and they sure don't know if things are being fixed properly or up to code.
Slow the process down.
Yeah. So we want to be that resource where you can call us, lean on us, and ask those questions, and we can help out. And then connect them with really good pros like yourselves, because it's very popular right now to be remodeling, and making the home look beautiful. Like, that's what everyone wants to be spending their money that way. We know that. That's what there's nothing better than remodeling and like making a home beautiful. It's the funnest thing. So if we're gonna have money to do those things, we've got to be prepared up front.
Very cool.
Yeah. Very interesting.
In the past, I have used home inspections to, when I was trying to buy a property, I'd go in and offer asking price on the property. And then I would have my inspector come in and beat the house all up on paper, and knowing that document. So when your report comes to the sellers, when it comes through, it goes, by law, it has to go on the house's permanent record. Right, the sale record. And so if somebody was to eject if the first buyer ejects, that report sort of follows the house, and the selling agent is required to disclose that to the next potential buyer. Mm-hmm. And so what I've done is gone in and made the house had a reliable inspection company like yourself make the house look bad on paper. And then go in and use that as my negotiating, knowing I wasn't intending to pay full price for the house, but I'm able to use your report. And I know that's kind of a technique or a tactic, and you can't necessarily speak to whether you like that or don't, but do you feel like people use your reports in that manner a lot of times to work the price down from asking price? Maybe they care about the items on your report, maybe they don't, but they're using it as a sort of a cudgel to get after the seller.
Absolutely, that happens all the time. And it's a good tactic to use. I mean, truly, like I said, there's expense that goes with owning a home, and it is a competitive market, especially in a lot of our larger metro areas here in Texas. And so people are able to work with their realtors and get in there and use an inspection report to drive the price down. I mean, we've seen incredible things get done with the inspection report. It's full on amazing. Just how much that is a part of the process. And although we don't necessarily encourage people to do that, because it's everyone's choice to do what they need to do in their particular circumstance. Because, some people, they can try it and they do it in the wrong market, and then they lose out on a great house, because they got a little too aggressive with it and they picked another buyer. So there's so many situations that make sense for something like that, and there's situations that don't make sense for something like that. But yeah, it's absolutely there to use.
It's funny, as I ask you this, we just sold our house here in Plano, the one we're recording at, and you can look out in the yard and see the giant piles of dirt where I'm having all of my sewer replaced. And kind of a funny story that goes along with that, we bought this house 9 years ago, and I did not think the sewer would pass the test, and so I didn't want to know. The sewer flowed, and so when I asked my inspector to come out, we have I don't know if you've ever run into Extreme Home Inspections. Shelley Morgan is.
Oh yeah.
And she's a very good friend, and she and I have done a lot of stuff together. And so I had her team come out, and they said hydrostatic test, which is the test where you test the plumbing to see if the plumbing will hold water. And I said no. I just didn't want to know. So we've lived here for 9 years, and we had the current buyer did a hydrostatic test, and our house failed. And so now we're spending the dollars to fix the sewer. We've lived here all this time, but I just didn't want to know that my sewer had failed, because I know, cast iron, 1975 house, there's chances are, 40 plus years later, that is 48 years later. That's not going to hold water. So anyway, kind of a funny thing that we're going through the whole inspection process right now. And, I liked living here knowing not what I know, or not knowing that my sewer pipes are failed.
Absolutely. It's very normal. I don't want to know everything either. I just moved into a new build in Prosper, and I had to do an inspection, and it's incredible the things that you're like, man, now I have to worry about that.
Right.
Like what? And you just don't want to have to think about it all the time. And I'm not going to do anything about it. Okay. But, at least oh, it's in the back of my mind. I'll deal with it later. I'll put it off, and when it bites me later, or not even bite me later, maybe it's just something I can keep an eye on and monitor. Yeah, we do it all the time.
But we as a new buyer, one of the things that you can do is use this inspection report to your advantage, and really figure out some options and some ways to solve problems that show up on the inspection report, and bring those to the attention of the seller, and say, hey, can you work with me here? Get this down, do this, and we're actually we're replacing all the sewer pipes under our house on our nickel. And so the new buyer, did a good job. And I recognize selling a house should have functional sewer pipes, and the fact that it doesn't bother me, but to some, it's a big deal. So I was going to ask you about what percentage of your inspections are for house flippers versus end users?
Oh yeah, that does change. If the investors are in a hot time and they're getting deals, they can take up easily 30% for us.
Do you feel like the interest rate going up makes more investors buy, where there's more cash buyers, where the interest rate doesn't matter as much?
I do think that has happened for us. Absolutely, yeah. Because we've been around them long enough. If they're hot on the trail, we get to do very well, and we've seen them. It feels like, I don't know if it's just our particular client base, but getting into multifamily as well, which is something we also love to do. That's been really great too. I don't know if it's just exactly what you're saying. It's the cash, or, these syndicate groups are really kind of coming into focus, because the word, like, people know so much about buying real estate now. That's a very normal thing to know, that, like, get assets and make it work. And so we do experience a lot of growth, especially in a lot of the surrounding areas. Right? Like, we've got these really cool niche new areas like Denison, for instance, of North Texas. I mean, it's going to go huge. It just will. When they put up, a new, Apple's got a new campus going on up there. There's so much happening in certain areas and corridors that once we see that, the investors, they're there. Texas Instruments is putting another campus. We're like, okay, investors are going to buy around here, because they know who's moving in. They know they're going to want to rent, and it's great for us.
Yeah, Denison. We just bought 57 acres right outside of Denison.
Did you really?
Yep.
That is fantastic.
We are moving up there in the next month.
Excellent.
And so it'll be we're that Sherman area is just going crazy. Sherman, Denison, all that. So that's great.
That's awesome.
So as you inspect for homeowners, that education piece becomes a more prevalent portion. Do you have certain inspectors that you target to the end users, and certain inspectors that you target for the down and dirty property flippers? Just tell me what's going to hang me, and I don't really care if the seals on the windows are failed, or if it has if there's a high-low vent on the water heater closet.
Yeah.
Do you have inspectors that you target toward the two different types of consumer?
Yes and no to that, because we do try to focus geographically. So if we know that someone's an investor and they're like, hey, listen, this is my 30th property, right? Like, you guys know the gig. Like, we're going to come in, we're going to gut it. Let's focus on the bones. We have built a service that is particularly designed for the investor, literally. And all it is the big five, which is roof, foundation, plumbing, electrical, whichever one I forgot there. Tried to say that too fast. And then the sewer line. So it's just anything that's big, like, that's what that service is for. And the people who are trained to do that service, they already know, right? Like, we're only going to come in and tackle that, and we're going to talk about that, because everything else is inconsequential.
That's so smart.
Yeah. And then we have inspection service where it obviously hits all the big stuff. But then if someone's a new buyer, they're coming out of apartment, or they're highly focused on aesthetics, you can get us to do aesthetic stuff for you, where we'll come in and talk about carpet, we'll talk about a paint chip, we'll do anything you really need us to do. So we've built all these services, and there's only certain inspectors that are qualified to do each of those services, because our training is incredibly rigorous, and how to report on it and how to talk about it's incredibly rigorous. So obviously you can imagine an investor property review service where we're going to come in, we're only going to focus on those things. That is an hour and a half versus this other service over here where I'm literally going to talk about a nick in tile or a scratch on a window. That could be an 8-hour inspection, right? Same size house. So it just depends on what's needed. But yeah, we cover everything. I mean, being at a stage in the size of the team that we have, and just the pure number of services that we can perform, and having done anything and everything, we've worked for a lot of celebrities. We are a top 1%er company just because of the scale of what our service will offer to those kinds of agents, and the level of privacy that they may need, the timing that they may need. I mean, it gets weird. You get some of these these people that they have money, and so they're like, hey, we want you to start this at 11:06, and you need to be out of here by 2:36 because he's gonna wake up and he doesn't want you here, and and we need to bring the Shaw person to come in and clear the house. Like, you're like, whoa, like this gets really interesting, huh? This gets interesting, but and you're not allowed to disclose anything. You sign all this stuff, but it's fun. It's fun. We're glad to be available for anyone in any need that they may have, and it allows for us to cover any gamut and any type of service anybody wants. We can customize.
Excellent. I think that's extremely smart that you've gone and have specific product offerings based on who your consumer is.
Brilliant.
I think that I had actually, I'm going to say that I had thought of that. I have not done it, but I don't have an inspection company. But I always thought, why should an investor pay the same amount as someone that doesn't care if the window seals are failed? Like it just seems silly. And I think that's so smart that you've divided your service into product offerings that fit who's actually buying your product. What a smart system So my compliments on that. That's we're talking specifically to end users. They're moving house to house. They need an inspection. What 3 questions what are the 3 or 5 questions that they may not think to ask, but what are questions they could ask the home inspection company to kind of vet them and figure out who's going to give them the best report and final outcome?
Yeah, for sure. I'm happy to share that. I would say to answer that, what are the questions that most home inspectors do not want to be asked?
Okay.
Let me just dive right in.
Yeah.
Here's what they don't want to be asked. Number 1, they don't want to be asked, where do you get the answers when you don't know something?
Okay.
Like, houses are houses. You're going into strangers' homes. You have no clue what you're going to truly encounter. Things happen. People change things. If you hit a wall and you need to know something and you don't know, what are you going to do? Are you going to Google it? Are you going to go
watch a
to
YouTube
some
video?
Friends? You're going to go watch a YouTube video? Because how do you get the right answer? That's an incredible. You're gonna knock most inspectors on their back heels with that question. I can give the answer, but that's the question to ask. Another question to ask is, how do they keep themselves accountable for the changing construction practices that are happening?
Building code is like a moving target. It just is. They write new regulations every time you turn around. So.
Absolutely. Like, what do I do? Like, if I'm the buyer and I want to make this home smart, or I'm moving into a home that has a lot of smart system upgrades, like, are you qualified and capable? Do you have enough technology knowledge to use these things? So I actually know that this is all going to work. What knowledge do you have around that? Or are you going to say, oh no, sorry, I couldn't test your windows because the shades were down and it's connected to the app or remote somewhere, and I'm just not going to do it. Like, that's a okay answer if you knew to ask up front, but it's a really bad answer if that was an important thing for you to have inspected because maybe you really did want to know. So that's a question inspectors don't want you to ask. Another big one is, who is their support network to get things done and actually fixed? Because when it comes down to it, going out and identifying problems and writing in a report, that's great. But if you actually want something fixed, do they have a network of people to call on, to use, to actually get things done? You know, if I want to remodel my kitchen and I just moved here from out of state, I don't know anyone. Maybe I had an agent. Maybe the relocation company moved me here. Maybe my company just came down. Right? State Farm moves me here. I'm here. Yeah, they have people for me, but I'm not confident, and that's not the only source that I want. Because let's say I'm really research based and I'm a sophisticated buyer, and I don't just want to be given a list of vetted people. Do you have any list of vetted contractors that you work with that you know do good work and you've worked with them time and time again? And it's not just Google reviews, because that's nice. Yelp reviews, that's nice. But people don't understand that when consumers do the review, most consumers don't actually know how to compare. So for instance, if I'm wanting to remodel my kitchen and I need to knock this wall down, if I call Johnny's Low Bearing Wall Pros, for instance, which is, say, a competitor that existed, I could give them a 5-star review, but I've never worked with another load bearing wall company. I don't actually know how to compare quality. But guess who actually knows that stuff? GreenWorks. Like, we're a home section company where we're going back and we're doing repair verifications, and we know how to ask and have conversations to find out which pros are doing this really quality work. And we're like, man, these guys are amazing. Like you all, where we actually know that your work looks really good, and we know that you're setting up the interior guys to come in and be able to put up beautiful finishes and beautiful backsplashes, and the appliances are going to fit and the gas pipes are going to be exactly where I need them to be. I'm not going to have any of the complications or problems with putting a spice rack next to my stove, because you guys did the job right the first time. You know, and you kept me on budget. So like when I give you a 5-star review as a consumer, I had a great experience with you. I gave you 5-star reviews, but someone else gave these guys a 5-star review. The reality is they probably shouldn't have given that person a 5-star review because they don't know any better. You got to listen to someone who's an expert level at looking at multiple trades like us to really help steer you to, I would say, the best of the best. And of course, you know, we're on this podcast with you all. Obviously, we recommend you guys highly. We don't have any other pro that we do recommend in your space, because at the end of the day, we've looked at enough of your work and we just know how good it is. So my 5-star review, and I don't know how to nicely say that, but it's better.
It's more meaningful.
It's just more meaningful.
Yeah, and
because
it's
I'm
coming from
looking
a more informed reviewer.
That's right.
Well, I think that's a new job idea there, to have the GreenWorks review of certain industry companies, and maybe top Angie's List or Google, you know. Yeah. Give them a run for their money.
I like that.
The reviewer, the green reviewer. I do have one more question for you. Do you have any opinion on the LEED Green Home Certification versus the Energy Star? There's several different paths out there. This is kind of the VHS versus beta. I don't know if I'm dating myself too much by talking about that, but you're younger than me. VHS and beta were two programs. You remember the whole thing? Do you have a? So I know there's LEED is one of them, and then Green Energy Star, and then there's a couple others. Can you speak to any of that energy certification stuff and the green in the energy efficient programs that go into houses?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we're not experts at it because it's not a service that we do in-house. However, we do have those contacts. I can tell you that LEED, it's definitely like very high quality. You're going to get an amazing product out of that. It's obviously the most expensive too, because the certifications, there's fewer of them. And you see a lot of that on the commercial level. So that's really a big thing there. I would also say when it comes to doing any of like the Energy Star, I do think that is a little bit more practical on the residential side. Energy Star is great. You can get someone who's going to come out and help you put in those Energy Star products, right? Like the windows and whatnot. And it's highly rated. It'll show up even in an appraisal, which is fantastic because then you start, really getting more credit for making those upgrades in homes. So yeah, I mean, I definitely, I think on the residential side, I recommend Energy Star over LEED, but LEED is great for commercial.
Yeah, and LEED does seem very complex. It's got like these 13 steps that you have to hit these metrics on, and I've looked into both, and it's very involved. So. Well, very cool, very cool. You want to wrap this thing up, Brett?
Yeah, I think that we've kind of explored.
Is there anything that we didn't cover that you want to talk about?
No, I feel like we covered a lot. No, I'm great.
And the value of having your home inspected, like, I'm not her and not promoting her business, but I would say do not buy a house without having a thorough inspection with a very, very capable, trained, and modernized company coming out and doing that, because it is to say the property standards or building standards are a moving target is absolutely true, and it is changing on a rapid basis. And thank God, I mean, it's great that that industry keeps moving forward. There's advancements, and in knowing about technology and how that affects a house is very important. And to be able to have trained inspectors that can come out and do that is a tremendous value add. And I don't think anyone would ever regret having a well-informed, modernized company take a look at their house.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to go into this at all. I mean, sometimes negative sort of talk isn't good for advertising, but sometimes there's a place for it in saying there are inspectors out there that are pirates or anything like that. Or, I mean, we don't really get into the guys that are behind us, and as far as the amount of work that they do, and a lot of other companies just do a quick drop in a beam underneath the ceiling and it's visible, and then they'll like do a wood facade or whatever on it, and we take the time to get it up in there and cut all the joists perfectly and hang every single joist with a joist hanger. And so I don't know if that is something you want to speak to other inspectors or other ways that you've seen it done, or if that's worth going into.
Yeah, I don't know if a negative campaign's very...
Yeah, it's not my style. We're kind of the opposite. We'll just say, like, here's what we do. Here's the quality we're going to bring.
Perfect.
And
well, I think that
research.
We just want to wrap it up, and I like that. Just that you said at the very end. I shouldn't have interrupted you. That was a great little wrap up on how y'all do things.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I mean, there's a lot of good pros out there in our space. Luckily for us, we're an industry leader at this point. We came in and really just worked incredibly hard to listen and understand. I am one of the only inspection company owners in the country that's not a home inspector themselves. It makes me very rare. And so what happens is that I've always had to take the stance of the consumer. Like, I've always been the client. My eyes are always only there because I'm not on that side of things. And then, of course, I have to overcompensate, admittedly, because I'm not an inspector, but I'm running an inspection company. I have a lot of knowledge. I hire people that are very knowledgeable, and we work together very well, right? Where I bring my piece to it, they bring their piece to it, right? Hey, you guys have great knowledge. Here's how you got to say it, though. Because if you talk in your jargon, you're going to talk over everyone's head. No one's going to understand what you're saying, and they don't appreciate it. Like, it's genuinely not appreciated. I don't need to be talked at or, explain things that I don't understand later. It kind of make me feel small and like silly and like like that's not how I want to feel when I pay for a service. So, explain this in a way that if I was 15 years old and I needed to understand this and I needed to live here by myself, could I understand it? And then, are you available to ask me questions later, right? Or sorry, if I want to ask you questions later as the consumer, are you really going to be available? Do you really care? And if so, cool, I'll give you 5 stars.
That's very cool.
I think that and you probably know better than I do, but the fact that you're not a home inspector probably allows you to be a more effective manager of home inspectors because you don't know home inspectorese, right? You don't speak failed seal, whatever else. You don't speak I'm sure you do now. You've learned it, but that's not your training. Your training is at Celebration Station, which is hugely important for how to treat humans, how to manage people, how to talk to people in a way. And it's almost like you have to teach your home inspectors to speak homeowner at the end of the day. And so here's all these facts on this paper. I need a down and dirty on what's important for me to key in on, and then a workable solution to rectify whatever this problem you've enumerated. Because if you've given me a to-do list that I don't know how to tackle, now I'm just frustrated, right? But if you give me a to-do list and give me some resources on where to go, a good, better, best, or some options and some directions, now you've given me a mission rather than a giant frustration and I'm at the end of a cul-de-sac and there's nowhere to go and I get my GPS back out because I don't know, there's no way out. And so I think that's hugely important to changing the list that you give them from an impossible overstatement of all these facts about a home that I used to love it and now I don't know, to translate that into now I have marching orders. I have a list of things to knock out, or at least a list of things to research and get to the bottom of and what they're going to cost, and some resources on who to call to figure out what this is going to actually cost and what is my exposure on this.
That's right.
I think that's very cool that you built a business on talking onto both sides. My wife was in the executive world and would talk in between the executives and the creatives because they didn't talk well to each other. And so very cool. And the customer service part of it too. And that's just who you are. Also at Celebration Station, Jason has plenty of stories. Didn't you plaster a pool or something?
Oh yeah. Our guys shot a bunch of metal chips into a pool, and I told the lady, we'll replaster it, but you got to write this in your review.
Yeah.
Because we're not known for being perfect. We're known for having a perfect outcome.
Right.
And so in the end, if it's all taken care of, we feel like we had a success there. Well, Harmony, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to come over here and talk to us. We really appreciate it. And these, this is kind of a fun exchange. I hope maybe we can do it again and dig into some other topics, and maybe we'll talk business administration next time.
Yeah, sounds great. Thanks for having me.
Yep,
right.
Thanks for coming on. Thank you very much.
And that wraps up the Pros Podcast for this week. Join us next week. Subscribe, smash that subscribe button, as they always say. Amen.